in southeast Libya that show a group of people watching a diviner with a forked stick. It has been estimated that these drawings could be 8,000 years old. In the 5th century BC, Herodotus described how the Scythians dowsed with willow rods. There is a tradition that suggests that the Queen of Sheba included dowsers in her entourage whenever she travelled to see Solomon. Their task was to dowse for water and gold. Divining rods are mentioned several times in the Old Testament. In the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verses 8 to 11, Moses is said to have struck a rock twice with his rod, and the rock produced enough water to satisfy Moses's people and their cattle. Rods were considered acceptable in the Old Testament only if they were used for the Lord's work. They can be related today to the bishop's staff and the sorcerer's magic wand. The Catholic Church disapproved of any form of divination, so for many years dowsing was considered to be the work of the devil. Martin Luther also regarded dowsing as a mortal sin, and even included it in his list of activities that broke the first commandment. This is rather strange, as Martin Luther was the son of a miner, and must have been well aware that dowsing rods were used constantly in mines. In the 16th century, dowsing rods were regularly used in German mines. In 1546, Georgius Agricola published De Re Metallica, on metals, a book on mining which explained in detail the necessity of the divining rod in finding and exploring mines. This book was encyclopedic in scope and became the standard textbook on mining for at least a century afterwards. Its importance was such that copies were chained in churches, just like Bibles, and the priests would read from it to the illiterate miners. Georgius Agricola was the doctor at a mining camp in northern Bohemia. He became fascinated with mining and mining law, and his famous book recounts all he learned. There is an engraving in this book that shows two prospectors dowsing, while a third is cutting a branch from a tree to make a rod. These German dowsers later brought their skill to England to help the locals divine for tin in Devon and Cornwall. Queen Elizabeth I actively encouraged these miners to come to England to locate and exploit the country's mineral resources. The first person to write about dowsing in English was Robert Boyle, often called the father of chemistry. Although he had been unsuccessful in his own attempts to dowse, he remained open-minded on the subject. In an essay published in 1661, he wrote, "A forked hazel twig is held by its horns, one in each hand, the holder walking with it over places where mineral lodes may be suspected, and it is said that the fork, by dipping down, will discover the place where the ore is to be found. Many eminent authors, amongst others our distinguished countryman Gabriel Platt, ascribe much to this detecting wand, far from credulous or ignorant, have as eyewitnesses spoken of its value. When visiting the lead mines of Somersetshire, I saw its use, and one gentleman who employed it declared that it moved without his will, and I saw it bend so strongly as to break in his hand. It will only succeed in some men's hands, and those who have seen it may much more readily believe than those who have not." In the late 16th century, a girl, Martine de Berthereau, was born, who grew up to become the first famous dowser. She was married to a leading mining expert, Baron de Beausoleil et d'Offenbach. She gained her interest in dowsing from him and became an expert at divining minerals as well as water. Her discovery of the Château Thierry mineral springs in 1629 was just one of many achievements that led her to become a mining advisor to the French government. She was hundreds of years ahead of her time. Fluent in 3 languages and possessing an extremely adventurous nature and a constant wanderlust, she must have been stimulating company. She travelled extensively, even across the Atlantic to Bolivia, where she examined the gold mines high up in the Andes. Unfortunately, her interest in dowsing was construed by many as being associated with witchcraft, and she and her husband were arrested in 1627. The Baron was able to